when Scotty and I were putting the plan together, it was quite random, wasn't it, Scotty? 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, day after a game, 2 days before a game. Keeping us on our toes.
He's all good? Stuart, take everybody's come through okay from yesterday?
We've had one illness reported this morning. Again, I don't think it's anything too significant. Apostolos picked up a bit of a knock. I think he'll be okay, but he went into a tackle with Carter Vickers, pretty full-blooded tackle. The two of them are 50-50. And he had a little bit of complaints, but I think I'm hoping he'll be okay. And then out with that, we've managed to get another full training session in with Paul McGinn today. So that's his third full session, I think it is, with the group today, which is great for us. He's looking good. I see Paul slightly different. You know, sometimes we need 2-3 weeks to build up to players getting back in fully. But when you've played well over 500 games, you understand what you're about. You know what the game's about, and I'm hoping that Paul can slip back in there pretty seamlessly into the squad. And on top of that, I think I'd mentioned it yesterday, we'd kind of been managing big Liam Gordon to a point where he'd had a bit of an issue last week against Kilmarnock, played the game, and we've just been trying to manage a little bit of his game time in there as well.
How do you kind of go from kind of tough afternoon yesterday to playing in that, you know, the team's second in the league as well, so not a short turnaround as well to, you know, to play the two of them twice in succession?
We've just been trying to get this mindset that what's our aspirations, what's our ambition as a group of players and staff and football club, and for me that is to test yourself against the best. I think if you have any fear or any trepidation in that, then there's no point in turning up, there's no point in being there, there's no point in being in this environment. So my kind of challenge to the players and to the staff, to myself, is that you have to embrace that. I think if you play at the highest level, you have to play every sort of 3 days. You know, we must have aspirations of trying to see if we can absolutely push ourselves to the limit in this league, and what might be the fruits of that can be playing in Europe and these types of things, which this club's done before. And to do that, you need to have a very particular mindset, and to do that, I believe you have to be robust. That's another thing. You have to be able to put yourself out there continuously, and you have to find a level of consistency in your work and what you do. So that's kind of how I've approached it, to be honest. That's pretty much word for word how we've addressed it with the players. And the other thing is that at the start of the season, when the fixtures come out, there's a couple of key dates that people look for, isn't it? Christmas, New Year, what's your first game, how do you finish before you go into the split, all these types of things. I actually don't personally, but I know a lot of people do. But the one thing that was a fact was that this was how the fixtures were going to land, and this is how they were going to fall. So definitely don't feel sorry for ourselves. We try and take the good bits that we had yesterday, and I think there was plenty of that to a point. I believe that we have to play with a wee bit more bravery in possession. I believe we have to carry the fight that little bit more, and try and stay in possession longer than what we did yesterday. A lot of the defensive aspect at times was good, but there's aspects we need to take from yesterday, and there's bits that we're going to have to try and improve on, and try and see if we can tweak that over the next couple of days. But it's a very different game as well, the fact that it's at home and it's against a different opponent, but equally a very good one. But my message is go and embrace the task, go and embrace the challenge.
A couple of the guys I mentioned, maybe when in possession, just taking against Celtic and Rangers, taking a wee bit more risk, if you want to call it, when you're in possession of the ball. How do you manage that between keeping a good defensive structure and actually, when you have the ball, picking your moments and when to strike for them?
It's always the biggest challenge, to be honest with you, when you know that they have such threats and such quality, the opposition have such quality, you have to try and get some sort of split between taking that risk but also having security. I kind of spoke about it last two games that we've had here. I think we've struck that balance at Celtic Park well twice, a couple of draws. You obviously want them to be wins. I'm not here sitting celebrating draws, but at the time they were very good draws where Celtic were flying, and I think at one point nobody had taken points off them at home. But I felt we struck that balance pretty well. I think yesterday at times there was a little bit too much emphasis on us securing and sort of stopping and structuring against their threats rather than maybe just taking that wee bit more of a risk. I believe that anything you do in football has to be calculated. I personally don't sit here as a coach, a manager, with this with this football club, you understand at times the percentage of the ball that you've got. Just to be blasé and start to throw caution to the wind and have, you know, all kinds of players playing in high positions up the pitch and not having any kind of solidity and any kind of structure to your defensive unit, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. We have to strike that balance. I think by and large this season we have done, but I always feel that there are moments where you feel you defend too much and you need to try and go on the front foot, and times where you go on the front foot that you need to try and balance it off the other way. And again, from a coach and manager's point of view, even at my previous club at Ross County, I always felt that was the biggest task and the biggest emphasis for me to try and get that right. And I think sometimes within that there's decision making as well in game. You know, you set something out and sometimes players get a different feeling or maybe just aren't quite on it in terms of what they're doing. So it's something that we strive to get right in each and every game. But I probably feel that by freshening things up and by trying to get a balance over the course of this next couple of weeks, will give you every chance to maintain that a level of energy in both defending and attacking.
We're getting closer to January. I know you're in the middle of this bonkers period of games, but have you had a chance to look at potentially what could come in terms of incomings or outgoings in January, and how, I would assume you want to be less busy than the summer, but do you expect to be active?
I would think we'll be active in some way. I don't foresee that being wholesale changes, not even close to it. We've been working away in it since the summer. That's kind of what you do. I think if you're going through best practice, that's what you do. You're always working towards the next one. Where I always wanted to get when I first came here was to be working 2 windows ahead, as opposed to one. I think that just working towards one window is a real short-term kind of thought process. So that'll give you a decent indication that we're actually trying to work towards the summer as opposed just this one now. But again, we've had what I would say was a big squad. I'm kind of glad we've had a big squad, to be honest, with the amount of injuries that we've had. And the biggest part for me is to ensure that everybody contributes. I've said that to the players. That was, I think, my opening gambit in day one, is that you're not here just to be kind of named as a Premier League player at Motherwell. You have to contribute. So that's been a big thing for me. It's still a big thing going into this window. We have to ensure that everybody here is in a position to contribute, and if they're not, what would be the solution to that? Sometimes it might be a loan, sometimes it might be that their future might lie elsewhere to get the game time that they feel that they require. But that's kind of what my focus is centred on, to make sure that everybody's here can contribute. And if that's not the case, and if we feel we need to get a little bit of balance, probably find ourselves a little bit short at the top end of the pitch, you know, with Zach Robinson's serious injury. So there's a couple of areas that we just maybe need to pick off and try and see if we can find the correct one. But I would stress it again, I'm not just bringing in somebody just for the heck of it here. We have to make sure that they contribute.
Philip Clement said yesterday that he didn't expect the defeat coming, obviously, and that it was a moment of quality that won the game. Is that sometimes the message to your players as well, that it just takes that little moment of finesse and sometimes not right across the 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think we've done that plenty of times ourselves. You know, as I say, I'm referencing playing against Rangers and Celtic. I think we've done all right against Rangers and Celtic in my time. I think we have always carried a threat. Sometimes you ride your luck in there as well. Sometimes there's a moment of quality in your defending as well. You know, it's not just that hitting the back of the net. So yes, I think we all know that that's not going to be sustained for 90 minutes. But I think it's ensuring that you can have that kind of composure, emotional intelligence to pick off the right moments and see if you can execute it. And I think it's suffice to say that was the case with St Mirren's winning goal yesterday. It was a moment of quality. But as I say, we've been okay at that, playing against the likes of Rangers and Celtic through my time. So that's where I'm always pretty confident that it's there. It's just, again, trying to make sure that we execute it.
And Rangers aren't going to come here feeling sorry for themselves, obviously, feeling maybe slightly vulnerable. You're going to have to expect the best side of Rangers coming here on Sunday.
Yeah, listen, we all know through Scottish football what the demands then become on Rangers or Celtic or whatever it might be. You know, we played against Celtic at the weekend there and they dropped points against Dundee United, and always the demands are that they win the next game of football, and that's exactly how it will sit with Rangers. The demands of the players and the management there will be the supporters want them to win the next game. I understand that, I get that, but I don't think we can concentrate on that too much. I think we understand that that's what the reaction will be be required from them. We just have to focus on what our game plan is, what we set out, and to make sure that we impose ourselves and we don't just stand there and wait to see whether Rangers are going to give us a reaction or not, that we can actually try and take the game towards them and try and create them some problems from our side of things.
In terms of your longer term injuries, how is that going, and how do you integrate them into the squad in the next few months?
Just depends. It depends how long you've been out for. It depends how you are physically. At the risk of going into it specifically, I think I obviously spoke about a few individuals at the start there, but it's always in conjunction with our physios, our medical staff, our sports scientists, and we're always working towards guys coming back in but staying in. So there's a bit of variation to all of that. We do see Jack Vale coming back in the next couple of days. Looks he'll have completed a couple of weeks training at Blackburn. So again, that's different from the ones that we've had here. He's been at his parent club, and we expect him to come back in, and we expect him to be pretty close to being up to speed. Probably need a bounce game in there, which we've got planned. Believe it or not, there's an extra game in this schedule, but that's on the basis of trying to get some of these longer term injuries some game time, some minutes on the pitch, because we think that just takes him a step closer to being selected in our squad and in our starting 11.
If you do get these guys back, it does significantly strengthen the squad, doesn't it?
I believe so, yeah. I believe we've got a number of guys that have been out and missed a lot of football that are really, really good football players. So I'm really hopeful that we can get them back into the mix and really start to push the strength and depth in the group. Spoke about us being a big squad, which I believe we are, probably bigger than I would possibly want it to be, but through necessity. But I think there's 3 or 4 guys that we've not seen in a long time play football that could be and have been very, very good players for this football club. Thank you.